Hello and welcome everyone to another episode of Astrology with Jeffrey Bryan. Today's episode is going to be on the conjunction of Neptune and Jupiter in the sign of Pisces in April of 2022 and what that means. But before we go into that, I'd like to show you a little bit about my services that I offer. So this is my website, Astrology with Jeffrey Bryan, where I do a blog. It gives every day the forecast for every day, and you can buy products. So I teach meditation courses privately, or you can get a natal astrology reading with the transits. There's also a beginning meditation that's a downloadable version, but let me tell you, it's way more than a beginning version. It can take you to enlightenment if you practice it on a daily basis. It explains everything you need to know about meditation and how to do it and how to hit deeper states of consciousness. It's not a visualization technique either. But I am making healing technique meditation videos coming up very shortly because I feel there's a great need for people to be healing in the times that are coming forward in our world in the future and even today. And then here is a guided ancient protection and clearing and grounding visualization meditation, and it's an MP3 where you just listen to it and go through what it says to do, and it protects you from bad energies, negative frequencies, attachments and entities and all kinds of things, and it draws the energy out. There's this technique where it pulls these negative influences that have been stuck on you or in your aura or in your energy body, and it pulls them out. And then there's ways to protect you as well as ground you. And then that's just scheduling appointments. So then there's an about me portion. There's all these things about astrology, and this is about learning meditation. And then here's my blog where I post like things about the different moon cycles and the astrological forecast for every day of the week. So now let's move on to the conjunction of Jupiter and Neptune in Pisces in the coming year. So here it is, the conjunction of Jupiter and Neptune. So as we can see here, we have the conjunction of Jupiter and Neptune in 23 degrees Pisces on April 11th, 2022, and that's a Monday. And I used Greenwich Mean Time, so that's occurring at 6:30 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time. So to find out where it is and where you live, you just have to figure out the time for your location from the Greenwich Mean Time, which it happens in advance with the orb of influence affecting it. So we'll go over that. So the start of this conjunction, if we use an 8-degree orb, would start on March 2nd of 2022 and end May 27th. If we use a 6-degree orb, it would start March 11th and end May 16th. So that gives us a 2 to 3 month time period that these two planets will be influencing one another. And that's a big deal because they're both big planets. And, you know, it takes Neptune 165 years to traverse the zodiac. It takes a lot less time for Jupiter to move through the zodiac. He moves faster, but their power together is really a big thing, especially in the water sign of Pisces. Now Neptune and Jupiter are in the third or spiritual decanate of Pisces. And why is that important? Because when we have this zodiacal wheel it starts at Aries in cardinal fire, and it initiates the whole wheel, the whole chart. You know, everything about it. It's where we have come from the spiritual world of Pisces and we're moving into the physical world of fire, and we need this ambition, this drive to propel us forward. Well, these two, Jupiter and Neptune, are now in the final stages of the completion of the wheel, and Neptune is in its home sign. So that's a big deal because this is the spiritual or wisdom decanate of Pisces. So we'll move into this a little bit deeper because there's a lot going on with this conjunction, as we'll see. So this third or spiritual decanate of Pisces has a sub-rulership of Scorpio, Mars, Pluto, with the keyword of vicissitudes. Vicissitudes refers to having a wide variety of jobs and careers and leading an eventful life. However, in the last decanate of Pisces, we find that people recapitulate their lives from areas or conditions we often find in other areas of the zodiac. So this is a position where it's trying to clean up what the other decanates or the other planets didn't do in their signs in a certain time, especially with Neptune being there. So we find qualities of this area of the zodiac are often associated with adaptability and likability that need excitement and change. I find this interesting, though people that are born with their sun in this decanate love physical research, and that they advocate for helping and preparing people for the existence in the spiritual worlds. In other words, they help with people in their dying moments, or they are people who prepare the person's body for certain belief systems to prepare the person's body for their afterlife. So, you know, like in Egyptian times, they would do this like embalming thing where they would, you know, wrap them up and all that, or mummify them. So it would be like nowadays preparing someone in a certain way based on maybe their religious or spiritual beliefs for the afterlife. So the reason I find this conjunction so important is because of this whole thing with the afterlife. And Jupiter is, so Neptune is like illusion, disillusionment, confusion. It's like it'd be like this foggy area where you can't really see or understand what the truth is or what's really going on. And Jupiter is this planet of optimism and abundance and expansion. And so if we can't understand what's going on, and we're in this spiritual decanate talking about the afterlife and preparing people for the afterlife, and some confusing times ahead or issues going on in this time period, I have to wonder if this is going to be a time period where a lot of people are leaving the earth plane due to some circumstance. So be aware, this could be really impact people in their life if this is the case with a huge amount of the population, because this is, I'm not just talking about one little town or country, this is for the whole world, because Neptune and Jupiter are going to be going into Aries, and so they're in their final phase of cleaning up what needs to be done that wasn't done prior. And so maybe there's a lot of people that are wanting to exit the physical world at this time. And there might be a lot of blame or anger and things associated with this, with people's emotional natures. But this is what the planets are telling me, that this could be one of the things going on. Now, people that have their signs in like Cancer or Scorpio, this trine, they would trine this, they may find that this is like a beautiful time to dream, to have these huge, bigger than life dreams, or they're not confused. Their spiritual perception may be heightened, or their service to humanity would be in tune with maybe like some form of cosmic consciousness or unity consciousness in a grand big way where they're helping other people or some form of like that. So it's not all negative. I'm just pointing out that we need to be prepared for this, or understand in a spiritual way what's going on here in the world. And I think you guys know what I'm talking about with what's going on with everyone's health and the restrictions and limitations, you know, being pushed down our throats to keep our jobs or whatever, go to school. And this may be part of the contributing factor to this. I don't know. Only the future knows for sure. But I do see people leaving here at that time in this 2-month to 3-month time period. Hope I'm wrong, but that's what I see in these charts. And a lot of people helping out with this. So now let's move on, because there's a lot of other important things, but that was the most important thing I wanted to speak about. So this is in a harmonious aspect to the north node, and in another harmonious aspect to the south node. Now the north node is where we want to be headed. And this is, everything's in the third or spiritual decanate if we look at these charts moving forward that are important. So, you know, before I move into that, look, this moon would be moving within the next few hours or day into the third decanate, or 20 degrees. There's 30 degrees in each sign. So the first decanate is the first 10 degrees, the second decanate is the second 10 degrees to 20 degrees, and then 20 degrees to 30 degrees is the third decanate, and they all have sub-rulerships. That's how we get the meaning. And so the moon would be moving into it, the third decanate. Here we have the north node, or the south node, and the north node in the third decanate. We have Jupiter and Neptune, third decanate. The sun's in the third decanate of Aries. And then here we have Saturn and Mars in the third decanate of Aquarius. And here we have Pluto, the keyword of idealism, in the third decanate of Capricorn. So let's move on to the north node, because that's important, because these are in harmonious aspects. So what's going on with these two planets in connection with where we want to be headed with our life, or with the world in general. So, you know, it's in Taurus, which is fixed Earth, and the sub-rulership of this north node in Taurus is Capricorn Saturn, with the keyword of mastership. The mastership I'm referring to here is the ability to use physical means to attain spiritual ends. It's a stating that the slow and steady climb to the top is the way in which someone rises to the heights of true spiritual achievement. So the reward from their labors, from the slow and steady climb to the top, however, depends on how they use their power in administering to the ills of others. So I would be looking at, you know, people in power or leaders as to how they're dealing with this aspect. It looks like it's in harmony. So it looks like they should be dealing with it in a positive way. But it's coming from the past. And the past is trining this. So the plan of this is moving forward, looks like it's meant to happen. It's not in conflict, it's in harmony. So here we have the south node in 24 degrees 11 minutes of Scorpio. And the south node is where we don't want to be headed. It's like the past, and this would be the future. And we don't want to go always revert back to the past. So it's in the water, it's in fixed water Scorpio with the subrulership of Cancer moon. And the key word for this is attainment. The attainment referred to here is about the potency of the sex drive when sublimated to carry the soul to the highest peak of their mental and physical achievement. With this sub-rulership of Cancer, we find that intense emotions and vivid ideas can be part of this area of the zodiac right here. This decanate represents people who may feel a sense of value to their home and their country. Thus, they may have an attachment to the way things are in their living situations and circumstances as it pertains to their home and country. Attainment also refers to finding a partner in life that stimulates your ambitions and ideals to make a success out of life. So we've got this going on with this. So we have to connect the pieces, you know. We have attainment and we have mastership. So what is the attainment and the mastership in connection with Neptune and Jupiter? What are they? Why are they trining these? From vicissitudes, you know, this vicissitudes decanate. So it's very interesting to piece this together because they're in good aspects to the past and the future, as if moving, you know, people that stand for their home and country and, you know, their beliefs are really in harmony with what's going to happen with this conjunction. And then we have people who are in charge are in harmony with this conjunction. So it looks like people are going to be getting along at this time with why this is happening, or whatever's going to happen at this period of time. Now, I'd like to move over to the moon because he's going to be in 20 degrees. So I'm going to go with when he reaches the third decanate, because it'll form an opposition to Saturn. And it'll also form within another day or two an opposition to Mars. And they're both in the same decanate of Aquarius. So the moon it's going to be in 20 degrees Leo, has the keyword of ambition. And it's the third decanate, like I said before, with the subrulership of Aries Mars, which is associated with creative energy that comes from our emotional nature. These people have the ability to be leaders in society because they have the determination to rise in life despite the obstacles that are in their way. If the tendency to rise up in life is carried to extremes or goes to an extreme measure, these people will sacrifice everyone they know. They will sacrifice their family members, their wife, their friends, their associates, anyone, in order to rise and increase their power. So this is the moon, though, so it's the emotional nature. But I just want to give this out. But if the person is balanced and they care about their own integrity and the welfare of others, this can be a great time where they can be of immense service to society, because their natural gift and ability is to manage other people and to their advantage. So they have the ambition to manage people and use them to for whatever means that they want. So we have the moon squaring the nodes. So there's going to be some form of crisis or conflict or some form of healing, because I always believe that these squares are about healing something within ourselves and within the collective. So there's going to be somebody that's that's in this position that would be going against the harmonious aspects coming from the Jupiter-Neptune, so that are affecting these nodes. And it's going to be tied in an emotional outward way, especially in Leo with the subrulership of Aries. They're going to be projecting outward to everyone, like fired up, So I'd like to add here the sun in 21 degrees 50 minutes of Aries has a subrulership of Sagittarius Jupiter. And the key word or life experience of the sun here is propaganda. Now, it's not propaganda as in really doing negative propaganda through like advertising mechanisms. This is propaganda that is people sharing with others what they know or what they've learned. So Jupiter is the subrulership. So Jupiter is about higher wisdom, higher education, philosophy, and religion. And so we find here that people that would have like their sun position there. I would give an example of Martin Luther King Jr. as a civil rights activist out there for the people, giving lectures and talking and standing for what he believed was right. And also another example would be Mahatma Gandhi standing for the people of India against the British in a peaceful way. Both those people, Martin Luther King Jr. and Mahatma Gandhi, believed in nonviolence. And here we have the sun in this decanate of propaganda shining its light in a trine, which is a harmonious aspect, to the moon. Now, we've been talking about the moon in 20 degrees. So that area was about the managers of people that manage people, like the managers of the world, and if they're going to use their abilities for good purposes, or if they're going to sacrifice their way and throw everyone under the bus so they can rise to the top in power. Now, since we're talking about the two lights of astrology, I believe that this, and it's in a trine, I believe that this is for the good of humanity. So the crisis now becomes the message being shown here through the trine is the moon is now in conflict with the past, where we don't want to go and where we do want to go. So that's important to know moving forward with what's going on in our world today. Now, you can also take that in your personal life as well, that bosses and managers of people are listening to people that are whispering in their ear of the right thing to do. And I think that that's a good sign for the entire world moving forward. So then we have Saturn and Mars in Aquarius. And they're in, like I said earlier, they're also in the third decanate, which is of wisdom, which I call the spiritual decanate. And the subrulership is Libra Venus. And the key word is repression. So this area is kind of a weird position for Saturn to be in, because it's about repression, but it's about becoming unrepressed. So if you have a if you go into a marriage for reasons that are not of like love or a job that you hate because you need to earn a living, you become repressed. And then with Saturn there, you become even depressed. You're stuck. You know, Saturn's stuck. He's repression, he's depression, he's even death, and he is fear. And here he is in the keyword of repression, where we're trying to get unrepressed. And he's opposing the moon, and he's square, and well, no, not yet. He will be, he's squaring, yeah, he's squaring the nodes. So he's repressing us, the society, further, I would say. He's putting rules, laws, boundaries, and creating fear in this ability to repress people. I would love to believe that he was unrepressing us, but he would have to be doing something in this state that would be putting laws in place in government, because he also represents the government, that would be for the people. Now, he is an Aquarius, which is a social sign, but he's been killing out our communication, you know, with all these different things on different media platforms. And we have Mars, you know, Mars's ambition. It's in mythology, he's the god of war. He's trying to move things and propel things forward. He's in that cardinal fire sign. And he's also in repression. So he's trying to, and he loves, and you know, Mars likes being in the air. Fire and air mix. They need one another. So, or at least fire needs air to breathe, to grow, to exist. And so he's in this repression, and he's trying to push something forward. And it probably has something to do with Saturn, or, you know, doing something about trying to either get us out of repression, to get us out of the situation we're in. But that squares the nodes as well and opposes the moon. So, you know, we're like in this debacle. We're in these tension points of disagreement, or we're in conflict with with the nodes. We're in conflict with the future and the past, or where we want to head and where we don't want to be headed. And we're in this, you know, conflict with the emotional nature of ourselves, or as the collective of the world, on, you know, what's going on with this, you know, why is this all happening? What's the bigger reason? So the answer to what's going on here is Pluto in Capricorn in 28 degrees, with the subrulership of Virgo Mercury, with the keyword of idealism. And so idealism has to do with the ability to grasp and express things in concrete form. So it's this power of their imagination, or of Pluto's imagination, to unite people in an intensive movement of labor, whether it's through, you know, clerical lines or other forms of work, but it's to develop their highest talents, to execute plans for society. So it's really about creating this ideal society. And how do you do that? You have to use what Pluto is about. Pluto is about transformation and metamorphosis. He represents the Kundalini, or the evolutionary life force, which evolves society or mankind. In our own life, it would be the evolutionary force that raises us to higher states of consciousness, in this process of change. So Pluto is quantum change. It's like the caterpillar turning into the butterfly. It has to go through this process of metamorphosis to from the cocoon out into this beautiful butterfly that flies. And so he has to, just like the butterfly, he had to tear the structure apart in order to build himself anew out into this butterfly. So Pluto here wants to tear down the structures through, governments around the world. He wants to tear so he can rebuild anew. And he's trining the North Node, the direction that we're headed, or that we want to be headed. In mastership, which mastership is this slow, steady process with few setbacks of getting to the top. So, it's the third decanate, which is, represented by the subrulership, like I said earlier, of Capricorn, Saturn. Well, that's represented by the goat in astrology. So the goat is the most surest of foot of animals, and it can climb those rocks with few errors to finally get to the top. It takes time. So that's what's happening in this fixed Earth sign with Pluto trining that. They're working for building a new society. But in order to do that, they have to tear down the structure. So whether that's going to be good or bad, only the future knows. But, I was talking about Saturn being in repression and squaring the node. So we have to ask ourselves with this Pluto, are the laws that we used to have in the past of our government working, or are they not listening because Saturn is repressing or blocking them? Or are they forming new laws to change the structure of our lives or our legal system or our governments? So we really have to pay attention to its battles going on, because we've got people on opposing sides. One person or one group of people wants the old way, and another group wants the new way. So there's always going to be conflicting sides to everything going on. And that's why with the moon too, there's going to be conflicting people that, are in charge, the managers of the world. And there's going to be people that, manage people in their own belief or in a bad way that you would think. So what's good to you may be bad to another, and what's good to another may be bad to you. And so we've seen different people around the world wanting us to all move in a certain direction. And a lot of the people that don't want to move in that direction we're all in this opposing conflict. So whatever the outcome, the structure is going to crumble and something new will come about. But what that is, the future only knows, because we don't know which side wins out at the very end. Now, I'll tell you, it'll be really good probably once Saturn moves up into water and gets out of here, because this is really messing with the rules and laws and how we communicate and what we can and cannot do. We're really restricted to our freedom right now. So moving forward, we need to look at who the leaders are, what the laws are, and if they're being carried out and followed. And we really need these activists, with the sun here, to really be speaking out loudly to the managers of the world. That's only for a day, but they need to be speaking out to everyone, to the collective, loudly what is going on, because the truth is being suppressed. So that's what this is about. And so we'll find as we move forward in time how this works itself out, but that's for another video. So I just want you to be prepared in case, this Neptune Jupiter conjunction, causes some problems in your life. A thing I didn't mention is like people in Sagittarius or in Gemini, that forms squares to this conjunction. So they may not be able to trust what's happening or what they believe, or their dreams may be not going the way they wanted, or they may be looking through a lens that's like fogged up. You ever have your glasses on and like you open the oven or you walk outside and the heat hits it and it fogs up? That's kind of like what's going on, but it's going to be big because it's Jupiter. So they're not going to be able to see clearly what's going on. So they need to probably be patient and not do anything drastic during this time period. And it also opposes Virgo. So Virgos Virgo would be in opposition to this. So they may have issues with the vision of their future, or they may be having some vivid dreams or going through some emotions that they're not used to be going through. So anyway, I'll stop here. I hope you guys have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.